Ben Ennis, JD Bunkis, and Justin Bourne. So I know you guys did a show without me on Monday. You talked a lot about Rasmus Sandin. So I don't want to step on all of your Sandin thoughts. But
what do you want to talk about when this final block, Bourne?
In terms of the Toronto Maple Leafs?
Yeah, anything. Listen, floor is yours.
That's an interesting ask. The Sandin thing is something that we've talked about in the break. Is there value in having that discussion?
I just feel like you and I have picked over all the bones of Sandin already.
But I'm here, and this is relevant.
This?
They're going to burn the ELC tonight against the Predators.
We've done this for 2 weeks.
It is a thing. So I do have a take that the development of some of the second-tier Toronto Maple Leafs is going to decide whether this is a team or just a team with some stars. As in, what's Alexander Kerfoot? What's Andreas Johnsson? Is Trevor Moore a guy? Was Travis Dermott going to become a guy? Those are guys that are going to be on the Toronto Maple Leafs for years to come. They have contracts. Each guy I named there outside Dermott has at least next year on their deal. What is Kerfoot? What is Johnsson? Because the Johnsson thing, I'm starting to get worried that the way he plays at his size isn't going to allow him to stay in the lineup. Because he plays tough. He plays mean. He's 5'10". He's one of those guys that's concussion height and plays dirty and guys don't like. Not good. Trevor Moore, kind of small, plays tough, gets hurt. Are those guys going to be in the lineup enough? So I have some questions about the guys beyond the usual suspects.
I wonder how they're going to use Rasmus Sandin going forward. Because, okay, so the blue line's obviously the clear weak spot on this team. That's no surprise. And we thought it was going to be better than it has been so far this season. But there's good defensemen in there. And it gets a whole lot better when Jake Muzzin's back. Tyson Barrie is I don't know what the hell to do with Tyson Barrie. But isn't there a way to dole out the minutes that makes that blue line look better for the final 30-plus games?
Well, no, because they don't have Morgan Rielly.
Yeah, hard without Morgan Rielly. Like a perfectly healthy Toronto Maple Leafs defense with Morgan Rielly, Jake Muzzin, Tyson Barrie, Travis Dermott, Justin Hall. There's enough guys there where that's good. You feel pretty comfortable with a lot of those guys. You don't feel like you have a pillar to lean on necessarily. Morgan Rielly, I guess, is the closest thing. But if Sandin becomes a guy, and here's what I believe. I think they think that this is all part of his developmental plan, that he would play half the year in the AHL, he would be the guy, and then he would come to the NHL. He's got 2.5 months till playoffs. I think that they think not only can he be an upgrade on whoever their next defenseman would be, I think they think he can be a contributor, a plus guy, a guy who moves the needle positively for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I think watching his arc here is going to be interesting in how they use him.
I'll just say it. I'll be the bad guy in all this.
Someone should.
I hate how much of the Sandin conversation has not surrounded risk and how it's like, hey, we can't judge this team if they don't win just this 1 year versus there's still time for them to win and windows and having Matthews for the 4 and blah, 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 blah. You don't have any draft picks coming up. You have a empty farm with no draft picks. You have Nick Robertson, and the team is essentially trying to move Jeremy Bracco. It's out there. It's public knowledge. They'll sell him for whatever piece will help them win now. Jeremy Bracco is not going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf. That's clear. Timothy Liljegren, you can wish him and want him to be some superstar all you want. It ain't happening. Everybody who you talk to who knows the game and who scouted this guy is telling the same thing. He's still a little ways away. He still really struggles with a lot of elements of being a defenseman. Are there some clear upsides with the guy? Certainly. You bring Rasmus Sandin up, you're going to have no first-round pick this year, no first-round pick next year. You're going to be looking at a farm system that all of a sudden has this real gap in it. How does this
pertain to not bringing up a guy who's ready to play?
This is how it pertains, is that it isn't all about this one season. And if it is, then it shouldn't be determined by a guy who's 19 years old and who is, at this point, still a fringe NHLer. I'm excited to see Sandin, too. I think he's going to be I think he'll be fine. Let's just put it that way. I think he's going to have moments that are going to wow people, where he's going to make a hit like he did in that, I think it was the Chicago game, where he stands somebody up. He's going to play a style that we look at and say, wow, that you can really see something here. But you're essentially going to have no high-end young players that are going to supplement your roster in that cheap $1 million to less that are high-end guys over the next couple of years. You're going to be missing that from this group.
You got Sandin for 2 more years after this.
And we've seen this before with other teams. We've seen this with other groups where it's like the Chicago Blackhawks, where it's you don't really have a farm. You don't have guys that can come up and supplement. And it makes it really, really hard to build a roster, especially when you're capped out. And the other part of it is that, maybe this isn't, can we just at least acknowledge that maybe this isn't what's best for his development?
Sure.
That maybe a kid who is still a kid, who is 19 years old and who's being asked to already carry his country's hopes at a World Junior tournament, already asked to play heavy minutes for an AHL team as a 19-year-old, already asked to live in a foreign country, that maybe playing for a team that has the biggest spotlight of any team on the universe when it comes to hockey and playing not sheltered minutes on a team that is like do or die for the playoffs and putting all this pressure on him, that maybe mistakes and having his game being picked over for 33 games could result in something that's bad. Like, it just feels like so much is being put on a 19-year-old kid when it should be about so many other players with this group. And so I think it kind of sucks. I think it's fun that we get Sandin. I'm excited for him to get this opportunity. I do believe he's better than Martin Marincin right now. I understand the logic, but the idea that this is some like risk-free move and like, you just have to be a meritocracy and play your best players, and that this is just some vacuum of you're going out there and playing every night, it's asinine to me. I can't believe people just like won't take the blinders off and look at these things. I'm like the person in the horror movie, like standing behind, making you watch.
Orange.
Like, look at it. Yes, because it's real. It's there. There are other things.
Yeah, I think there's a very real chance, probably 51% chance this is not best for his development.
Yeah.
But there's a strong chance, or
Okay.
at least a lot of chance, that it's very, very good.
Okay.
So I think they're at the point where all the things you mentioned, they got cap issues, they're trying to get better, they're not quite good enough. So if they can get a little better and get, make that little bit of 1% difference, it's worthwhile. I understand why they're
1%
like,
worthwhile? I don't agree with that. That's my problem.
You're already all in on this season. You're already
Yeah.
desperate.
And
This is a desperate move, though. Like, and I think the
Desperate
organization
moves are bad. That's the thing.
not if they pay off.
if you ever won in roulette,
Oh my God.
sometimes it's great.
This is it. We talk about this with GMs all the time. Like when they make moves out of desperation. And I'm not saying Calder was trying to save his job. It's pretty clear that he's here for the next couple of seasons. But like, what gets said about general managers when we look back at them and say, oh, history doesn't side with this?
I think this was a part of the plan
It's when
before
they
the
got
season.
desperate.
This
I
is
don't
not
believe
desperation.
that. I don't believe that.
I bet going into this year, they said that we'll do a half a season type of thing
He
like you did
broke
the
camp
tournament.
with the team. How can you say
They
that?
broke camp with the team because they had injuries, and they also
But, like, it
sent
was-
him back down.
Sure.
And we've talked to Brian Burke about this, and I agree with him, is that the team said that this was always on the table, that they weren't afraid to do it. But
Well, you're both about to get up right now. I'm scared.
Yeah.
Are you
I-
going to jump me?
Sorry, I just need to stretch my
they
back.
didn't want to do this, man. Of course they didn't want to do this. Best case scenario, they would have brought him back a couple of games before the playoffs, let him
dude,
get his feet wet, and then throw him into the postseason.
Of course they didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
They wanted to have
Bourne's
a
saying this was the plan.
huge. Okay, they wanted to
No.
bring him in for the playoffs. I agree with that. I think they wanted a couple of games of wiggle room. He had to play 4 on the second stint, right? This is going to be the 4th. They wanted maybe the 3 games at the end of the regular season. Playoff games don't count against burning that entry level ELC. And I know maybe it wouldn't have made sense with a fully healthy blue line, but here's the odds. It wasn't going to be healthy either way. Somebody was going to go down. He would have found his way into the lineup in the playoffs. But either way, I do agree with you that he was part of the plan. If they wanted to maximize the talent on that blue line, it's a little desperate, but there's like there's capital D desperate, and there's like a little bit of little sprinkle of desperation.
But that's
in
the
there.
thing is, I see the upside to these things,
Yeah.
and I can acknowledge these things. And in fact, like, maybe tomorrow I'll be talked into the idea of like kind of being a smart move. We could look at this a couple of weeks from now. I'll put my hand up and be like, yep, you know what? He's been amazing. I can't believe it. He saved the season. I was wrong. He's so mature. Slap an A on him.
I can't wait for the confetti that's going to fall from the ceiling when he gets a snapped clavicle tonight.
I'm just saying that we have to be able to acknowledge that there's 2 sides to this conversation, and I really,
Yes.
really hope
Yes.
that, I hope that people can acknowledge that.
Sure.
Sure.
People are reasonable.
Yeah, that's it.
Bourne, thanks, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, guys.